took me 20 years to figure out how dumb I was about our country. And the story goes back then for many years, back to 1981, when I was president of a company called Hudson's Bay Oil and Gas, which is no longer there, but it was a classic company in those days. And here I was, the president of that company, at quite a young age. I was less than 50 years old. And this particular day in 1981, the banker that had called on us every year came to visit, and he brought along his chief economist from Zurich, the chief economist of a big Swiss bank. Of course, looked like a economist, Dr. So-and-so, with white wavy hair and a rumpled suit, and, you know, doctor, this is chief economist, okay? So we sat down and had a visit, and he said, well, Mr. Haskayne, how are things with you this year? He said, we travel around the world, and I just thought we'd like to find out. I said, well, do you really want to know? And you remember this, 1981. I said, well, let me tell you this way. First of all, interest rates are 18%. The Canadian dollar is under pressure. We have incredible problems with exchange rates. We have the National Energy Program, which is killing our industry. We have the Foreign Investment Review Act, which is awful for our country. We have new programs, social programs, which we probably can't afford. And anything else you'd really like to know? And I said, well, if you really want to know, Quebec also wants to separate. So anyway, he looked at me and said, you know, Canada is a very wonderful country. And he said, you tell the story different than I envisaged Canada. He said, here you are, you're the second largest country in the world. You live right next to your greatest trading partner. As a result, you have no national security problems. You have an educated workforce, you have wonderful financial resources, and you have all of the benefits of infrastructure, meaning roads and airports and so on and so on. So he said, I could go through a whole list of things that you do well in this country, including its legal system, the governance system, but perhaps of most importance in many respects is your natural resources. And he then went on to describe in his usual academic way and very slowly said you have enormous natural resources in oil and natural gas and minerals and agriculture and fishing. And he gave me this long laundry list. Finally got to the end. And he said, Mr. Haskayne, sir, I suggest that you are a country in search of a problem. And here I was, everything I mentioned, 6 or 7 things, were accurate, and they were deadly accurate. But everything I mentioned were negatives, not one positive, and each of those things were created by us as citizens of the country. And yet everything else, which was extremely well done in terms of their natural resources and how we'd even developed them, and here I am bitching about the country. And so I thought, how stupid can I be? Here, the head of one of the most beneficial persons in the world, because I was a depression baby, got a university education, not many of us at that point. Here I was, head of a big company much earlier than most, just because I was a depression baby. And here I am, the guy telling him about our country and how bad it was. I deserved a kick in the butt, and so I just wanted people to know that we better sometimes sit back, like I should have done, and realize how damn good this country is and what we need to do to get it even better.
So on that note, we structured this talk, so is Canada a country in search of a problem, or is it the best place to do business for the next 25 years? So what we will do is the panelists will each bring up a different point that influences how we are moving forward. And we're going to start with Sharon.
Sure. Thank you, Lauren. Well, talking of Canada's competitiveness, I decided to look at how competitive we are on the trade front. And when we talk of Canada and when we talk of trade, the most important aspect is our enormous trade partnerships